ever thought about getting a tattoo?
Mhm.
I mean, it's something I think about every now and again, but then never pull the trigger on.
Yeah, well, there's definitely certain permanence to them. You want to make sure it's something you're going to be happy with, for a while.
Exactly, exactly. But that's actually not what this deep dive is about today.
Yeah.
We're going even deeper than that.
Deeper than permanent ink.
Deeper. We're diving into the tech that's changing the game behind the art of tattooing.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Things are changing fast.
Fast isn't even the word for it. It's like someone dropped a quantum computer into a bottle of India ink, shook it up, and the whole industry is exploding with possibilities.
That's one way to put it. It's definitely stirring things up. I mean, tattoos have always been about that personal touch. The artist's hand bringing your vision to life. But now you've got algorithms and marketplaces. The whole digital world is entering the scene, and it's really raising some big questions. Like, what makes a tattoo authentic? What's the soul of a tattoo in the digital age?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're digging into today. The first article that really grabbed my attention was all about these digital flash sheets. You know how much I love flipping through those binders full of designs, the smell of the paper, the faded ink?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a classic.
Classic. But going the way of the dinosaurs, it seems. Going digital just feels like a huge, huge shift.
It's huge. And it's not just about convenience either. This is like changing the whole DNA of the design process. Imagine, instead of working with a physical drawing, you're looking at these designs on a tablet, resizing them with a pinch. You can swap out elements, tweak little details, all on the fly.
Oh, so much faster.
Lightspeed. And there are even platforms popping up to offer these pre-made digital designs. You've probably heard of the Ink Design Vault.
Rings a bell, yeah. So is this kind of like how music production uses samples now? Like, is it making things easier, or is it like opening up this whole new world of creative possibilities?
That's the question, isn't it? It's the million-dollar question. On the one hand, you've got artists who are worried sick. They're saying it'll lead to these generic tattoos, like everyone's just going to be walking around with slight variations on the same design.
I can see that. Like everyone having the same Instagram filter on their tattoo or something.
Exactly. But then you've got artists on the other side of the spectrum who are like, hey, this frees me up from all the grunt work. It lets them focus on the client's story, that unique spark, and then they can bring in those digital elements as building blocks.
Okay, so it's not just about the tech itself. It's about how it changes the whole vibe between the artist and the client, which, when you really think about it, is at the heart of what makes tattoos so meaningful.
100%. And this is where things get really, really interesting.
Oh, how so?
Because now you've got AI design tools entering the picture.
Well,
yeah, Woe is right. Some artists are experimenting with AI now to generate ideas. It's almost like having a brainstorming partner. You feed in these keywords, concepts, even a whole mood board, and the AI just spits out all these options.
Hold up. AI is designing tattoos now. I need a minute to process this. Part of me is like, that's insane. How could a machine capture something so personal? But then the other part of me is thinking about walking into a tattoo shop and seeing those walls and walls of designs and feeling totally overwhelmed. What if AI could help narrow it down? Find a starting point that really clicks with you.
And that's the debate raging in the tattoo community. Does using AI suck the soul right out of the art form, or is it just another tool in the toolbox? Like, is it any different from using a stencil or a different kind of needle? There's no easy answer, is there? I mean, it probably comes down to the artist and the client and what they're comfortable with.
It really makes you think about the future of tattooing. Like, what's going to happen to the traditional apprenticeship model, right? Are people still going to spend years learning how to draw by hand if AI can generate a design in seconds?
It's a valid question for sure. I mean, you could ask that about pretty much any creative field these days, right? It's this bigger question about how technology is changing, everything. Are we going to wake up one day and AI is just making all the art and human artists are out of a job? Or will there always be that demand for the human touch, that little imperfection that makes something special, one of a kind?
Yeah, will handmade tattoos become like vintage guitars? More expensive, sought after? Who knows?
Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And speaking of interesting, we haven't even touched on Procreate stamp brushes yet.
Oh yeah, those are in the stack of articles. They kind of sounded like digital rubber stamps to me.
Exactly. Imagine those old school rubber stamps, but digitally, right in the software. Artists make these brushes and they can just stamp pre-made elements onto a design. We're talking stars, leaves, super intricate patterns, stuff that would take forever to draw by hand, especially if you need it multiple times in the design.
So it saves a ton of time.
A metric ton of time. And of course, just like with those digital flash sheets, there are now online platforms where artists can buy and sell these Procreate stamp brushes.
Oh, wow. So then does that open up a whole other can of worms when it comes to like who owns a design? Like if I buy a set of brushes, can I copyright the design I make with them? Or is that like derivative of the original artist's work?
Man, that's $1 million question, right? And it's something the courts are grappling with more and more these days. It's like, where do you draw the line? Is it the melody of a song, the lyrics, the arrangement? Now we're asking the same things about tattoos.
It's true. And how do you even begin to translate a design that's digital flat, onto the curves and contours of a body?
Yeah.
That seems like where the real art comes in, right?
Yeah. 100%. Any good tattoo artist will tell you they aren't just tracing a stencil. They're feeling it out, adjusting, adapting to how the skin moves. A good tattoo is like part of you.
I wonder if AI will ever be able to do that. Like, what if you could upload a scan of your arm and the AI could tailor the design to your exact anatomy? Maybe even predict how the tattoo might warp or change as you get older, or if your skin stretches.
Okay, now that's getting a little too sci-fi for me. It's like, where does the art end and the algorithm begin?
Right. It's that question again, what do we value most about this art form? Is it about perfect execution, or is it about that human touch, that connection?
You hit the nail on the head, and I think that's what this all boils down to. How do we take these incredible technological advances and make sure we don't lose sight of what makes tattooing so special in the first place?
It's about finding that balance. Right?
Balance, 100%. And I think we could say that about a lot of art forms right now, Photography, music, even painting. Mm-hmm. Technology can be amazing, but we got to be careful not to let it run the show.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to all this, and they're like, this is amazing, but also kind of freaking me out. What advice would you give them as someone who's thinking about getting a tattoo in this crazy new world?
Honestly, I'd say don't overthink it. Don't let the fear of the unknown stop you from experiencing something as cool and personal as getting a tattoo. But don't be afraid to speak up. Ask questions. Do your research. Find an artist you trust who gets your vision and is down to talk about their process. Like, how do they feel about AI? Do they use it? How do they handle your data and your design? The more open you are, the better experience you're going to have.
So it's not just about finding an artist whose style you like. It's about finding an artist whose, philosophy about this stuff vibes with you.
Exactly.
And it's about figuring out what level of customization feels right. Do you want something totally custom, drawn by hand, no tech involved? Or are you open to digital tools, maybe using some pre-made elements? Or are you curious about the whole AI thing? It's like, there are no wrong answers here. It's about figuring out what feels the most authentic to you.
Love that. What feels authentic to you. And, don't be afraid to embrace those gray areas, right? Like maybe you start with an AI-generated design just to get the juices flowing. Then you work with the artist to tweak it, add your own personal flair. Or maybe you fall in love with the design from a digital flash sheet, but then you want that artist to take it and really make it their own, hand draw it onto your skin, give it that traditional touch.
So you're saying the lines are getting blurrier in a good way?
In a good way. It's like this whole new world of hybrid art is emerging. Technology and tradition are coming together. And that's exciting.
It is exciting. But it does make me wonder about the whole security aspect. With all this talk about digital designs and data flying around, are there cybersecurity risks we should be thinking about when it comes to getting inked in the digital age?
Yeah, there's a question you don't hear every day. And it's a good one. Because let's face it, if you're using an app to design your tattoo, or you're emailing back and forth with an artist who's using digital tools, well, that data's got to be stored somewhere, right?
And we're not talking about just what kind of pizza you like or something. This is pretty personal, right? I mean, it's going to be on your body forever.
It's a whole different ballgame. I mean, think about it. Who has access to that design once it's digital? Could it be shared, sold? What if companies start targeting ads based on people's tattoos?
Whoa. Okay, that's next level. Targeted tattoo ads. I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
And that's the thing, right? We're kind of making this up as we go along. It's like the Wild West of ink out here. We're inventing the rules faster than we can write them.
So where does that leave someone who's listening to all this and is thinking, okay, this is cool and all, but now I'm a little freaked out. Help. What's the takeaway here?
Don't panic. Seriously. Don't let all this talk about data and AI scare you off from getting a tattoo. Just be informed, Ask those questions, do a little digging, and find an artist you connect with, someone who gets it, who's thinking about this stuff too.
So, do your research. Find an artist whose values align with yours. Basically, it's like anything else these days, right? Be an informed consumer.
Yes, exactly. And remember, at the end of the day, getting a tattoo, it's a deeply personal choice. It doesn't matter if you go old school or embrace the digital revolution. What matters is that it feels right to you. It's your story.
Your story in ink. I love that.
Right. And that's